All right, people, welcome to this episode of the Visionary Experience. Today, you will be empowered. Today, you will be lifted up. Today, you will be strengthened. We have Miss Jessica Perrilliat of Empowered with the HER, Empowered to Care Coaching. Welcome, Jessica. How are
Thank
you?
you. I'm good. How are you?
I am well. Thank you so much. First of all, I love the name of your website, of your branding of your company with the her
Thank you.
highlighted in the pink. I think it's so necessary, right? It's so vibrant and relevant to a
Mhm.
lot of the things that we've been facing and going through in this country, over the past couple of years for sure. So, if you can, for our audience, please just share a little bit about yourself and how you came up with the name of your website, your company, and exactly what you do.
Okay. Sure. So my name is Jessica Perrilliat. I started Empowered to Care Coaching because for a number of reasons. Wow, that's like a really good question to ask
Mhm.
first because I wanted the her in there, obviously, because I service women. So
Mhm.
I help womenpreneurs brand their businesses and intentionally show up for themselves and show up for their clients. And so I think a lot of times as women, we have to choose our career or parenting or marriage. There's not a lot of a combination of the two. And so I want to help womenpreneurs to take back some of their time. So they have time to do the things that they want to do. So with me, I do branding. So I do website design, I do social media management, social media branding, I do brand identity and awareness, brand kits, brand templates. So I try to do anything that helps their voice get across, but also for them to be authentic and intentional in what it is that they do. I know for me, I'm a single mom.
Mhm.
And for a number of reasons, I see so often women who are fatigued and burnt out
Mhm.
because we are innately nurturers. And so we want to help everyone, we want to do everything. And a lot of times we do it at our own expense. So we put ourselves last. And with Empower to Care Coaching, I want to empower women to take back their time. I want to empower them to put self care first, to put their kids first, to put themselves first. And I don't think that you can intentionally show up for your clients if you can't intentionally show up for yourself first. And so on my social media, I put something that a lot of people liked, which was, and I know that you've probably heard it a lot of times, which is to, you can't pour from an empty cup. And you
Right.
can't.
No,
There's
you
no
can't.
way that you can be your best self for anybody else if you are pouring from an empty cup. And so I think that um, I have a huge background in dance and fitness and health coaching. I have another business for that. And so I wanted to infuse that into this business because a lot of times women don't take care of themselves. And a lot of
Mhm.
times people don't encourage us to take care of ourselves. We are supposed to carry the weight of the world on our shoulders and do everything effortlessly and perfect. And it just doesn't leave a lot of room to just be or to rest, to have time for yourself. And so I try to incorporate all of that into my business in terms of just encouraging and empowering women to be the best version of themselves that they can possibly be, and for me to help them to grow their business. So
No, fantastic. Well, there it is right there on the screen. Stop pouring from an empty cup. I love that because there's nothing to pour, right? There's nothing. It's the analogy if you're on a plane, right? You have to put the oxygen mask on yourself for first.
yes, I think I don't know if I have that on this post or another post, but I literally say that you do. In a
Yeah.
plane, they don't tell you to put it on somebody else first.
No, absolutely not. And it's funny. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine the other day about that term self care, and just some days ago, in the morning, I just decided to not come in the office, to stay home for a little bit. It was a work day, technically a work day, but I made myself some good breakfast. I sat down, kind of watched a show because I just felt like I needed to decompress and not think about work as I do all the time. And I'll tell you, Jessica, but I also felt very guilty because I'm like, I'm not being productive.
You should be doing
Like,
something right
I'm
now.
not answering emails. I'm not answering calls. Like, and so literally, like, it was like just two sides of me because I was like, but dude, I've got to relax.
Yeah.
I've got to take just a little bit of time, even if it's a couple of hours. And then the other half of me was like, well, that's going to be 2 hours of stuff that you didn't get done that is now deferred to another time. But and it's like, so let me ask you this. So for the women who do get burnt out, for those working professionals, whether they're a single mother, whether they are a single woman without children, right? Or married, how do you help them to actually come up with that balance? Because there are multiple priorities in life. Work is a priority because you have to feed yourself and keep a roof over your head. Your children are your top priority because they're your children,
Mhm.
right? You have to take care of your body so that you don't get sick and break down. So how do you teach women, and what do you share with them about having that balance?
So I think I get to talk a lot from experience because I was married. And so knowing what it's like to be married and to have a career, and then to be married with your baby and have a career, and then to
Mm,
be single and not married with no kids and try to have a career. I was burnt out in all three of those. So I feel like a lot of times we have such a hard time creating boundaries, and we have a hard
mm,
time saying no.
right.
And so I don't speak anything that I haven't gone through myself. And I think it was a quote where it said that your calling is always something that you struggle with the most.
Right.
And so that's my calling, is boundaries for myself. I'm great at creating boundaries for other people, but when it comes to me, I have a hard time saying no because I always want to help people. I always want to make sure I'm there for other people. And so the first thing that I always like to say is, what are the priorities of your business? Like, what is most important to you? Is your career most important? Is your rest most important? Is your marriage most important? You have to know where your priorities are, and you have to know what you can and what you can't do. And so also on my website under resources, I have all of these resources that I use for my business. And so I think systems are a really huge part of being able to take back some of your time. And so whether it is like I use HoneyBook whenever I use clients because it sends everything for me. So it helps me with I can create templates. It helps me with payment reminders. It helps with setting up an entire system from beginning to end, from when I have an inquiry to when I finish a project. And so I can be as involved or as not involved as I want to be based on my time. And so that's one good system. And then also Flowdesk is a great system
Okay.
if you want to do newsletters, because again, you can batch content, which I'll talk about batching content also. And then Notion is great for when you want to set
Hmm.
up like actual projects. And I know some people use Trello, some people use ClickUp. There's a lot of different options that you can use. These are just the ones that I use, but systems and organization are really important. That is a way for you to ensure that you are intentional about your time and that you're not spreading yourself so thin. Also, I think depending on how big a business is, if you're a one-woman show, sometimes you can, have other people assist you in your work. So is it something that you need to do yourself, or is it something that you can outsource? Another thing is, just self-care is something that most women don't put a lot of time into if they're business owners, because there's just kind of what you said earlier, rest is a form of self-care. But a
Hmm.
lot of times we feel very guilty for taking that time because it's time that I could have devoted to a project that I had to do. Now I'm going to be behind on that project because I took that 30 minutes for me to just sit down and breathe.
Right.
A lot of times you can't be productive if your body is telling you that you need to do something else. So I think the first step in self-care is listening to your body, listening to what it is that you need. Because if your body is burnt out, your mental shifting is burnt out too. You can't think positively or think clearly. A lot of times when I'm burnt out, I can't creatively do what it is that I need to be doing. And so that's when I take a step back. But a lot of times you should know to take a step back before your body tells you that you need to take a step back.
I agree with you 100%. There's a quote by a famous motivational speaker named Jim Rohn, and he says it's not about the number of hours you put in, but what you put in those hours.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so true because it's like, okay, I've learned it, even though this has been a timeless kind of system, I guess you could call it. Like I've just learned to time block. I'm a to-do list person.
Mhm.
I've got my pads and my books. I've got books and books and books from different years, and every single day there's a to-do list. So that's was my form, and it still is my form of productivity. But I've also learned to put on my calendar time blocking so that I can just focus on a certain task at hand.
Mhm.
Because for me, it's cumulative. If I can just do a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time, then I'll look up and it's done. You know, versus, as you had mentioned before, the mountain can look unclimbable, right? Unconquerable when you look at it. But if you put your head down and you just start going bit by bit, it may take some time, but next thing you know, you reach the pinnacle.
Mhm.
And so I really appreciate that. Now you mentioned a term earlier, which kind of is a good term for me. It's boundaries.
Yes.
Are you familiar with Dr. Henry Cloud?
Yes.
Do you have his book Boundaries?
I don't, but I probably need
Well,
it.
you will now. I'm declaring to the world. I will send that to you as a gift.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Boundaries is a fantastic book about boundaries professionally, boundaries personally.
Mhm.
How do we respect ourselves? Right? What are we going to do to respect and protect ourselves?
Mhm.
There's also another book by him that I'm going to send to you called Necessary Endings. In fact, that's one of my favorite books because it really talks about there are certain things and certain times in life where we need to begin, and there's certain times in life we need to end. And there's certain relationships that we need to end because they are counterproductive for us. Thank you for bringing that up. So yes, I will definitely go on to Amazon. All right, giving Amazon more free advertising that they don't need. But I will give it. I love gifting books to people because it's one of the things that I love to do. So I would definitely get that for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No, no, absolutely. So yeah, Anton, if you could switch over to her website, that would be great. Just to her landing page. Want to go over that really
I
quickly.
love what you said about mountains. My one of my
Mhm.
brothers is in college currently, and so we were both talking about um like not paying attention to the end result and like looking at the steps that you take to get there. And
Right.
I thought it was so profound when he said that. He said, don't look at the mountain, you're looking at, each step that takes to get there. You're going to get there, but don't worry about how you're going to get there. Just take each step knowing that eventually you will. And I think a lot of times we also think that we have to do so much in one day
Right.
that we can't just take a little bit at a time. So time blocking is awesome because once you're done, you cut off that thing and you move on to something else. You don't try
No.
to
Yeah.
spend, your entire week thinking that you have to get done your entire to-do list. You just do one thing at a time.
Oh yeah. And honestly, like as just being a human being, like I don't always stick to it. But when I do stick to it, I feel so much better about myself. I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, I had the discipline to get this done. Right. And I work in real estate and mortgages in particular. And so, here, at my company at Visionary Lending, I am like a stickler on the process. The process is so important because the process is not necessarily what's seen so much by everybody, but
Mhm.
it is the most important aspect of getting everything done because it gets you from point A to point B, right? And as seamlessly and efficiently and hopefully as stress-free as
Mhm.
possible. So what we do is we, like you had mentioned before, we put systems in place, right? And contingencies so that we can be excellent at what we do. And at the end of the day, the client gets to be the hero. The client gets to purchase that new home and enjoy the prospect of building a new life and
Mhm.
building new memories, right? Whether it's just the single mom and her child or whether it's the big family, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we've been able to do that for people. And so it sounds like, with your website, with your company, that's exactly what you're looking to help people do,
Mhm.
for sure. So let's go through your website here,
Okay.
so Empowered to Care Coaching. So let's first start here. Now, did you come up with this term or just the womenpreneurs because I love the term.
I
Or just kind of
would
out
love to
there.
say that I coined it. I don't know
Right.
that I did. I don't see people use it that often,
Mhm.
but I just think, I don't know, womenpreneurs just sounds so empowering in itself. So
No, it definitely does. So let's walk through this first quote. It says, I help womenpreneurs brand their businesses and intentionally show up for themselves in order to better serve their clients. So why did you use that word intentionally, in terms of intentionally showing up, kind of what was your mindset behind using that word?
so I think that I am an intentional person.
Hmm.
And so I think that you need to show up authentically. You need to show up um, with a positive mindset. And I think intentional is just such a strong, clear word in terms
Hmm.
of what it is that you want to do for people, or how you want to show up, how you want to be known, what impact you want to provide, what change you want to create. And so when I think of intentional, those are the things that I think of. I think of making a difference, doing something that is genuine, impactful, and organic in terms of connection with people.
Absolutely. It's fantastic. And Anton, if you could scroll down a little bit where it says about, um, I'm just going to read a little bit. Yeah, just scroll down a little bit. Keep going right there. So this stood out to me as soon as I read it. It said, "Hey, boss, babe." I was like, "There it is. I love it." I appreciate. I mean, communication is so important. Like, it's not just the words, right? But it's like how you say the words, how
Hmm.
you interpret it, how do you absorb it, and it that automatically I'm trying to think of how to say this. Like, there's like an openness of friendship, right? There's a vulnerability. Like, hey, boss, babe. Like, I'm Jessica. This is who I am,
Yeah.
right? And you say here, I am you're unapologetically an advocate, right, for womenpreneurs making themselves a priority as they cater to their clients, family, and friends. As a single mama who works full time from home, I'm always looking for ways to better manage my time and find a healthy balance between growing my business and being intentionally as well as fully present for myself and family. I love that. That's like a fantastic, almost like a mission statement,
Hmm.
right? You know, and those are we have a lot in common because I use the word unapologetic pretty often, but even more than that, advocate.
Hmm.
Definitely more than that, advocate, because really we represent people. We try to defend people. We try to help people and lift them up,
Hmm.
and empower them. So let me ask you this: what I know we kind of talked about this in a little bit in the beginning, but I still want to kind of dig a little bit deeper. What really got you interested and really on fire about helping people with branding themselves in particular?
Okay, so it probably started in college. So I went to
Okay.
Howard University for undergrad,
Is that the
and
real HU?
that has to be the real age. Don't tell my mom that though. She went to Hampton. So.
There you go.
But I started off in broadcast journalism, and I did not enjoy that whatsoever. And I switched into audio production, fell in love with it. I did a lot of different internships. My first internship was BET. I did MTV. I did WPGC 95.5. And then I did an ABC News affiliate. And so I was trying to figure out where I fit in. And I felt like I wanted to do something more personal, and I wanted something that was more impactful on a smaller scale.
Mhm.
And so I went to get my master's degree from the University of North Texas, but I did the media industry side of things. And one of my professors took an interest in my work and said, "Would you like to come work for my office?" And I said, "Absolutely." So I started working for an office called the Center for Spanish Language Media, and I started there doing branding stuff for him, but also doing a lot of stuff in academia. So traveling and doing papers, which that was like my push into diversity and inclusion. And so that also is why I talk a lot about women, because I've
Mhm.
worked in diversity and inclusion for 8 years. So my first job out of grad school was at Georgetown University. I worked in the diversity and inclusion office there, and I was the program coordinator. So a lot of my job was branding their office,
Mhm.
and then a lot of my job was student engagement. And so then I started working for my mentor's dance studio, and I started doing all of her branding. And once I finished her branding, I started working for her dance studio. I moved to Ohio, where I was with my husband, and I did another university, diversity and inclusion in branding. So branding just kept showing up in every job that I had. They would see the things that I had done and said, you know, we really would like to rebrand our office, or we really need branding for this. And it's something that I enjoy, because I think that branding is a great way for you to show who you are and to show what it is that you want to offer people. So I think that going to someone's website and seeing the words on a page, I think that branding is so much more than a logo. It's so much more than pretty colors and fonts. It is really showcasing who you are and what it is that you bring. And so when I do branding, I love for people to see the person behind the brand, to see, you know, like when you go to my website, I want you, exactly what you said, when you say, hey, boss babe, I want you to feel comfortable. I want you to know that I see you and I hear you and I am you. And I want to show a way that I can help you to be whoever it is that you want to be and however it is that you want your business to grow. And so I got into branding a lot because I am a very creative person, and I love words. I'm very intentional about my words, my communication, how I speak, how I interact. And so branding to me is literally just showing who you are and letting people see all of it. The messy parts of it, the beautiful parts of it, the parts that, you know, people on social media don't want you to see, which is the human parts, not just the highlight reels. And so even when I talk about branding with my clients, I am not a person to follow what everybody else does or the popular things. I really want people to be authentic in who they are. And so branding is just, I don't know, it makes me happy to do it. It makes me happy to help other people do it. And I want to say that I just stumbled into it because in audio production, I learned a lot of different things, but the branding and the communication and the creative piece is what stuck with me. And it brings me joy to do that. And so that's why I started the business, and that's why I focused on that specifically.
No, that's fantastic. So I'll ask you a little bit of a tougher question here.
Okay.
Okay. So in your opinion, what's the main difference then between branding and, let's say, marketing yourself or advertising yourself?
That is a harder question. For me, I think, and this is just my opinion, I think that marketing and advertising sometimes are what you think people want to hear. And I think that it's a little more about the type of person you want to gain. I think for me, branding is connection with people. I think branding is more authentic. I think sometimes we check things off of our list when we're doing marketing. It's like, how can I create sales for this? Or how can I get this specific target audience interested in what I'm doing? Or how can I get my name out there and go viral or be popular or be, you know, the top business? But I think branding is different from those. I think branding is literally taking the parts of your business that you want people to relate to and the parts of your business that you want people to connect to, if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. And I definitely appreciate that. It reminds me, there's a guy named Seth Godin. I don't know if you've heard of Seth Godin. He talks a lot about branding and marketing. And he did a talk a while ago, and it really resonated with me because he talked about Hyatt hotels. He talked about like Nike. And if you kind of think about it, like a brand is almost like a brand becomes so deeply embedded. Like, okay, for a baby, right? What do you typically call a diaper? Pampers, right? A lot of people call them Pampers. Well, that's actually just the name of a company. It's not, you know, it's a diaper. Something you wrap around your child and you change, right? But it's so deeply embedded. Like they've gotten such a great grip in terms of market share that's typically what it's called, right? Or in the past, if you wanted to make copies of something in an office, like, oh, I need you to Xerox that for me, right? Where you're actually making copies, but had gotten so deeply embedded in society that's what it became known for, right? And I think there's a lot
Mhm.
of other, examples of that. For me, kind of going back to the hotel example, like I love Marriott. I'm a Marriott member. When I go out places, I like to stay at a Marriott because of, to me, what the brand itself represents. It represents cleanliness. It represents class,
Mhm.
being well taken care of, being well placed and positioned, right? In good neighborhoods, accessible to places. Like when I go, I'm going to want to stay or at one of the Marriott brands
Mhm.
because they're not going to associate another company with their brand because it's literally what it says, right? Or one of the Marriott companies. They're not going to associate that because it will tarnish their brand. Right. It will. And so I appreciate what you're sharing because you are your brand, right? What did your man Jay-Z say? Right? Jay-Z said, I'm not a businessman. I'm a
Man,
businessman.
yeah.
I love that. And so you help women to be the business, right? So take a moment. I want you to give us an example. You don't have to mention names or anything specific unless you want to, of a client that you've helped, a woman that you've helped to brand herself. What kind of business was she in? Where did she start? How did you help her? And how did you help her to be empowered and to rise up?
Okay. So I'm thinking of two people, but I'll
Okay, nope, you can share both. Feel free.
So I have one client who needed a website. And so she did a lot of different things
Mhm.
and she wasn't sure how to have a specific like target or a niche. And I told her that she didn't have to. Again, this kind of goes against the grain. I have like a lot of unpopular opinions probably when it comes to branding, but only because I want people to feel authentic in what it is that they do. I don't want to tell somebody what it is that their business needs to be. Like they have to determine what their business is going to be. And so for her, she did um sunrise photography,
Okay.
amazing sunrise photography. And then she was also doing newborn photography
Hmm.
because she was also a nurse. And so she wanted to do both of these things. And I didn't see why she shouldn't do both of them, but there had to be a way to talk about it and for them to correlate to me. And so for on her website, I said, well, what do you do with your sunrise photography? Or like, what does it mean to you? And when you do your newborn photography, what does that mean to you? And so I found a way to do her website in a way that showcased both of those things,
Hmm.
but it didn't take away from either. And so I took a lot of her pictures, I took a lot of her text. She was creating a guide at the exact same time. She wanted to create a guide to help people take
Mhm.
newborn photos. And so I helped her with that first. And so that kind of gave me an in to see, why newborn photography was so important to her and what it was that she did. But we also had a lot of deep conversations in general, just about life, about purpose, about passion, about our callings. And so I kind of went with her website and I ran with it just from who she said she was. And so I think what kind of sets me apart in terms of branding is like I like to get to know the person, and I like to get to know who they are and what they love and what sets their souls on fire. And so I try to take those pieces of them. And so she was interested in me doing brand copy also. And so she would give me ideas and I would take those ideas and I would elaborate on them and turn them into a story for her and turn them into something that people could see and say, wow, like I resonate with that. I love that. I appreciate that. And so I wanted when people went to her website, the same way I felt a connection to her sunrise photography, I wanted people to feel a lot when they came to her website. And so I had different pillars that went with her website. I had different reasons why I chose certain things. I had different tabs. I mean, I think I put on my website actually her review, but she said, um, it was like I knew her even though I didn't know her. And she
Mm.
said, like, thank you for starting me on this journey because she didn't really know how to brand herself or how to
Mhm.
market herself because she had two separate businesses. but she wanted them to both be on the same website. And so she was not sure how to get her sunrise photography to turn into courses, because she wanted to be an educator. She wanted to be able to teach people about sunrise photography and to do retreats and things like that. And so I was trying to help her to sell herself, not her business, not her offerings, because she is her business. So I said, I want you to know who you are, and know the light that you bring, the knowledge that you bring. And so it was a lot of just kind of empowering her as a human being, empowering her in everything that she was special in, and showcasing that on her website. And so we started with her guide, and then we moved from her guide to her sunrise photography. We moved from her sunrise photography to a lot of her newborn photography. And at the end of her website, she sold out her retreat like so fast and was already waitlisting people. And so it was kind of strategy and then the branding too. So I had the brand strategy piece that we talked about first, and then it was actually seeing through what that would look like on her website.
No, that's fantastic. And so I definitely appreciate the detail. Can you share about the other client?
Yeah. So my other client is a photographer. She does a lot of different types of photography, but she's also a cookbook author. And so she was looking to grow her social media, and I loved her because she was so authentic. She sent me an email, and she was just like, I know what I want to do, don't know how to do it. I love all of these things, but I need help. And so I did a Zoom with her, and we connected immediately. And I just talked to her about grid aesthetics for her Instagram. I talked to her about highlight covers. I talked about the importance of her bio and how clear that needed to be, and what needed to be in her name, so that when people search for her, if they were looking for something specific, they would know she was a good fit. We talked a lot about what she wanted her image to look like on her social media, because she was she thought it was very important to be authentic, which again, those are the type of clients that I love, are ones who just want to show up as themselves. And so she wanted to add a lot of humor to her reels. And so she would create these really cool reels, and I would talk about, how much we needed to show up and how consistent she needed to be, because that was one of her things, was that she said, whenever I think about doing my social media, I get overwhelmed. And so I'll show up for a little bit, and then I'll just go away for a long time before I come back again. And she said, I'm just not consistent. And so I helped her develop a content calendar. We talked a lot about the strategy of her Instagram. I talked about how often she needed to post. And so I did all the posting for her. And a lot of times she would give me a little bit of text, and then I would turn it into more text. I did a lot of hashtag research for her to try to get more followers. And she ended up getting a lot more views, a lot more people interested in what she was doing. And by the end of it, I mean, her Instagram just looked like a completely different Instagram. I gave her, she was big on quotes and music. So I made sure that, like, in her stories, I had templates that were specific for her quotes or her cooking tips, because a lot of people were interested in her cookbook. She was trying to sell more of the cookbook. So I tried to show all of the cool aspects of herself. And she was very much like me, because she was also a Pilates instructor. And so when people talk to me, like, I'm like, well, do you want to talk about Jessica, the fitness instructor, or the dance teacher, or the brand business owner? And so I thought it was really cool that she had all these things that she was good at. And so I wanted to showcase all of them. And so I made sure that when we finished her Instagram, that it was a true reflection of her interests, her family, because her family was really important to her, and also her clients and her business. So she was another one that came to my mind in terms of just kind of like helping her to put her best foot forward, and for her to feel more confident in what it was that she was doing.
No, that's fantastic. And so, we're going to end off, but listen, people, if you want to grow your brand, if you want to grow as a person, we didn't really even talk about the coaching part. Like, I think what we're going to probably end up doing is doing a part 2, because I think the coaching part is also very important. In fact, just business coaching, personal coaching is such a thriving billion-dollar industry out there, because all of us are looking to be coached. We're looking for some help. We're looking for some guidance, some assurance, and some encouragement
Mhm.
in some form of fashion. But I also think secretly, a lot of us do want to be pushed, right? We need to be pushed. We need to be held accountable. So I look forward to us doing a part two,
Me
to talk about the coaching. But Jessica Perrilliat, thank you for being on the Visionary Experience podcast. I'm going to make sure that we spread this to as many people as possible so that they can discover their inner self and really help themselves to find that balance
I
that
appreciate.
that they need. Absolutely. And we will have all the information about you and how to reach you in our show notes. Anything final that you would like to share with our guests today?
Mm. So I'm a quote person. I'm like a huge quote person. So
Absolutely.
I'm actually gonna pull up something that I saw this morning that I thought was pretty awesome. And so it was
Yes.
from Forbes, but it was a quote by someone, Elaine Chao, former US Secretary of Transportation. And it says, if you only think about your own advancement, your own success, you run out of fuel pretty quickly. But if we believe in something bigger than ourselves, that kind of motivation is self sustaining. And so I think that is perfect in a nutshell of how I would want to end because, um, and I posted this on my social media a few days ago, but when you want to intentionally show up for yourself, when you want to, and not just in branding, just intentionally show up for yourself in general in life, you have to recognize that things are so much bigger than yourself. Like when you're doing things, you're always impacting somebody. There's always an opportunity for you to do something for someone. And I think that you have to recognize, life is bigger than you. It's bigger than what you want to do. It's bigger than what you want to accomplish. But like, who can you help pull up, and who can you help empower? Who can you help change the world? So that would be how I want to end.
All right. Well, that is absolutely perfect. Again, thank you so much for your time. I look forward to us getting together to do a part two. And yes, God bless your business. And I know that you are going to be amazingly successful in helping as many as possible.
so much. I really appreciate you giving me the time to even be on here.
Absolutely. All right, people. Well, then, this has been an amazing episode of the Visionary Experience with Miss Jessica Perrilliat I'm reading from the website screen. That's right. I'm doing it. Empowered with HERED. Empowered to Care Coaching. All right. Check out that website right now today. All right, people. We look forward to seeing you again. Take care. We love you all, and God bless.